to episode 3 of Creative Cast. How you doing, Carl?
Doing pretty good this morning. How are you doing?
Good. Had a rather relaxing weekend. Basically stayed indoors and stayed warm because it is chilly right now, and it is supposed to be freezing this week. Here in upstate New York, I think our low is negative this morning and supposed to be for the next couple days. I know you got some snow last night, didn't you?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 inches.
That's not bad.
All
I
white
think
powder.
I think we got about an inch. Better than out in western New York, which has been getting hit with lake effect snow, and they had upwards of a couple feet a couple weekends ago. It was pretty crazy. I'm
Is that
glad I
ski
don't live
country?
out there. What's that?
Is that ski country?
Not really. There's a couple mountains out there, but not much.
All right. Cross country ski country.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking at the end of last episode after we stopped the recording about what we were gonna do this week, and we decided we're gonna talk about some of the stuff we use as far as software to help our companies thrive. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was CRMs. I swear it felt like a year looking at different CRMs, trying to make a decision, trying to figure out which one I wanted to use. And I kind of landed on one that has a great name. It's called Less Annoying CRM. And I love that because that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for something that wasn't like super robust. Like, I'm not looking for it to do a million things. I'm looking for it to really just have a customer base or a network base where I can put in the people I want to put in and have it remind me of stuff and record when I email them, things like that, like the simple things. I wasn't looking for this giant marketing package that a lot of them had. So It's Annoying CRM, or LACRM, which it's known as, is really great. It's really simple. I use it anytime I have a contact that I meet either through my networking groups, which I'll talk about one of those in a little while. And if I meet them in person or whether I meet them virtually, they go into my CRM and I have them categorized based on whether they're a contact more interested in Elevated Virtual, my virtual production company, or whether they're more interested in my print marketing and print design company, Graphic Precision. And so I have them sorted that way, but I also can sort them a bunch of different ways if I want to. But what I like about it, it is super simple. It's easy to put the information in. Actually, recently they just came out with forms so you could actually have your contact fill it out for you, and then that information would automatically be put into the CRM. But I do most of that myself. It does a really good job of keeping track of tasks and reminding you of stuff that's coming up. I have it connected to my calendar, so when my virtual production gigs come up, it will send me a reminder that day that says, hey, these are the ones going on for today. It also hooks very easily with email. Now, it doesn't integrate in the same way a lot of other ones do. You actually use a blind copy email address, and then it sends it and it recognizes the email address and attaches it to that customer. So I've been really happy with it. It's something that I am horrible with keeping up with. And that's part of my goal this year is I need to be better about using it and better about keeping track of things. Because we had a discussion that we have all of these people that we're connected to that we may not necessarily do business with, but we should continue to be connected with them. And so my question to you is, are you using a CRM? If you are, which one are you using? If not, like, why aren't you using one? And what is your process for keeping track of your clients?
It's mostly memory. It's get in my box and say, oh, I haven't talked to this person in a while. My company is about 8-9 years old now, and there are a lot of contacts that I have not tracked. So I do need to keep that CRM going. I need to create the baseline CRM. And then as our site grows, we're going to want to add new people into that because email marketing is effective. It's a good way to connect with people periodically. You don't want to flood their accounts with emails, but you do want to let them know that you still exist and that you're here to help them. So I don't have any sort of funnels set up for my business yet, other than just word of mouth. So I'm looking to create something that when people respond to the forms on my website, I can add them right in and then start, the sales process, because that takes time.
Yeah, and LACRM has a really good pipeline that you can build and custom build. I know a lot of times with us, there really isn't much of a pipeline. It tends to be more of, okay, we have a conversation with somebody, yeah, we might follow up, that might lead to a sale, it might not. But a lot of times when people are coming to us, because we're so referral and word of mouth heavy, they tend to be already looking for us to provide services. A pipeline isn't something that I find super effective for myself. What I find the CRM does really well for me is, and this is where I'll talk about the networking group I belong to. I belong to a group called Virtual 5 O'Clock. It meets every Thursday night at 5 p.m. online. We're a virtual networking group. They were started in March of 2020, so we're actually coming up on our 5th year anniversary, which is kind of crazy to think about. But what I really like about that networking group is that we get a lot of visitors. And so immediately the first thing I do is I connect with them on LinkedIn, and then I schedule a one-on-one with them. Once I schedule that one-on-one with them, they automatically are put into my CRM. That's a task that I do right away. And then while we're having that one-on-one, I can put notes into the CRM as to what type of business they are. Obviously, that I met them through V50. If there's anything they're interested in following up on, as far as if they're interested in the design side or if they're interested in the virtual production side. So it's a really good way for me to take those immediate one-on-ones that I try to do and really have somewhere where I can track that I've talked to those people. But like we talked about, I think one of the more important things is after they come to V50, I put them in there, I have the one-on-one. I tend to drop the ball on following up. And the CRM has a really good tool that will remind you after a certain period of time to say, hey, have you talked to this person in a while? And so I had a one-to-one with somebody I haven't talked to in probably 3 or 4 years. And that came through a mutual person that we were both working with. And he was like, hey, I'm working with this individual. And she was like, oh, I know who that is. And so she reached out to me to say, hey, I know who that contact is. But I should have been better about reaching out to her before 4 years later and saying, hey, just want to touch base and see how things are going. But the one thing I will caution you about with memory is I'm a true believer in something goes in, something falls out. And I've always felt that way. Like when somebody tells me some annoying fact that I don't really care about, that I don't need to remember, I always joke with them that, great, now you just replaced something that was actually useful. Well, I feel that way with contacts too. If I meet somebody new, I'm going to forget about somebody else that I've worked with. So I think the CRM is really good at helping me with that and keeping me from forgetting to follow up with some people and stuff like that. The other thing that's nice about LACRM is that it's inexpensive. It's only $15 a month, which is great. I will have a link in the notes that you automatically get 30 days if you sign up for free to test it out. If you use my link, it will give you 60 days. And so it gives you an additional 30 days to really test it out, make sure it's what you want before you start to have to pay for it. So I'll have that link in the notes for you guys, and I definitely recommend that you check that out. There are a ton of them out there. I know HubSpot is a pretty
Famous
much
one, yeah.
used by a lot of people. Thank you.
Yeah. Well done.
And it's something that I found to just be too complicated for me. It had too many bells and whistles. It had too many plugins. It felt overwhelming for me. Again, there's a ton of them out there. That's just one that I know that a lot of people use. If you're looking for something simple, you're looking for something that's just going to give you the basics of needs, LACRM or Less Annoying CRM is definitely the one that I would recommend checking out. And I would recommend, Carl, that you try to start using something like that, because I think it'll help you transition into the second topic we want to talk about that you've already brought up, which is email marketing. Are you doing any email marketing currently?
No, I'm not. I'm blitzing my Instagram right now with content. That's been my primary focus. But when I launch my new website, I want to email that out to all the people that aren't in my CRM right now. So I'm familiar with, I design for email marketing. I've worked with Mailchimp. I use Banana Tag, which is now another name. It's pretty universal in how to design it. It's kind of like those simple page builders. So I know how to use email marketing. I've never effectively implemented it for my own business though. I got an email from you saying Happy New Year, thank you. And I noticed it was a Mailchimp. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so actually I just looked up. Banana Tag is now staff-based email. First of all, what a weird name to start with, and then what an odd name to end with. But okay, it's now known as staff-based email. So yeah, I use Mailchimp, and the reason I use Mailchimp is I have a couple clients that I work with that are in that same platform. So I figured rather than trying to figure out like Constant Contact or even staff-based or a different one, I might as well stick with the one that my clients use. Particularly, I have a newspaper that I do layout for that are 2 business journals locally. And once we get that done and the information's put online, the digital issue is up, we send an email out to all the subscribers. And so we do that through Mailchimp. And so that's partly why I use Mailchimp. The other reason I use Mailchimp is it is free up to 1,000 emails a month. And so that's perfect for me because I'm sending at most at a time, I'm sending like 100. So I'm basically on the free plan, and I do ask my contacts and my customers, my clients, if they want to be on that list. That is very important. You do not want to spam your clients. That is one thing I will say about Mailchimp is that it's very protective of what you send out, meaning that it doesn't want you to spam. And so if you are what they call cold emailing somebody, you really should do that from your work email or from your personal email. You shouldn't do that from something like Mailchimp because you can get blacklisted for that if you do it, and then you will no longer be able to use their service. And worse than that is if you get your domain blacklisted, which is part of the email process, then you can really have some problems because that can cause problems with your personal email or your work email, and it can cause problems with your website. So you do not want to use something like Mailchimp for spam. I'll give you a perfect example. So I've got a client who reached out to me and said, hey, I want to start reaching out to landscaping companies. And I have a huge list that I've researched. I've gotten that information. How should I do that? And initially it was like, well, can I just take all those emails and stick them into a Mailchimp and send them out? And I was like, no, that's considered spam. What you need to do is we need to basically set up a template email in your regular email and send out a couple each day. And that's considered cold emailing. It's not recommended. You really should have a better way to start that process, but we all see it. We all see those cold emails from people who look you up on LinkedIn or look at your website and get your information. So what questions do you have about Mailchimp or about email marketing?
How do you start creating your email list? Obviously, you can bring in the people from your CRM, your client list, but how do you start drawing in more people, new contacts, people that are reaching out on their own?
So one of the things that I recommend is having a forum on your website or a landing page of some sort where you can send people to say, hey, sign up for my email newsletter. This is where you can sign up, and you can build those right in Mailchimp, and it'll give you the code that you can then put on your website so that when they sign up, they automatically go right into your Mailchimp contacts list. The other way to do is just reach out to your clients and reach out to people through LinkedIn, Facebook, through other social media and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is a newsletter I have, and I want you to sign up. The thing that I highly recommend is have some type of freebie or some type of giveaway. So for me, I did it kind of backwards where I have it on a landing page. I have a PDF that I built that is icebreakers for virtual training or virtual sessions. I have a forum that says, hey, if you're interested in this, sign up for this. And that puts them in. And there's a note on it that says you will be put in the list for my newsletter. And they were put into that list automatically. In the recent email, I actually sent it out as a link so that people could download it because they were part of my email list. But I will be putting that back behind a email paywall, I guess is the way you could look at it. And that way, when people sign up, then they can get it. I also have several others. So that's why I recommend using that because people are not shy about giving their email to you if you're willing to give them something that is of value. And the other thing is they can always unsubscribe. That's a really important feature that Mailchimp makes sure is in there without any issue, is always make sure you have a way to unsubscribe from your emails. There are some people that just do not want to get information that way and may unsubscribe. Mailchimp is also great at tracking all those stats, so you can see how many email addresses bounced, meaning that they didn't get delivered for some reason. It could be that the company doesn't exist anymore, the email doesn't exist anymore, they've changed email addresses, things like that. You can see how many people have unsubscribed. That's always good to see. And you can see how many people have opened the email and how many people have clicked on the links and where they clicked on the links in your email. So it's really good data to have. And then you can do A/B testing. So you could do one email to half the list and a different email to the other half of the list and see how they perform. And maybe your design needs to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe when you send it needs to be tweaked. There's all that stuff that you can play around with. But so TikTok was shut down for all of 12 hours, but it was shut down. And I think it's a good reminder for everybody that if you have a TikTok account, you have a Meta account, Instagram or Facebook, or you have a LinkedIn account, you do not own that data. You do not own that account. It is yours. Yes, you can make money with it. You can do marketing with it, all of that. But if that service or the US government decides to shut down that service, you lose those followers. So we always talk about this, that email is the best way to control your data. Because if you have the email address, if Mailchimp goes away, I still have that email address. As long as I have that list, which that's another thing, don't just leave the list in the service. Like every once in a while, export that list so you have a copy of it. But that's the point, is if Mailchimp goes away, Constant Contact goes away, if TikTok goes away, I still have those email addresses. And even if I need to reach out to those people through my regular email account, I still have that contact. So again, if you have something like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, those followers will disappear when that service disappears. And I hope for businesses, this TikTok shutdown was a good reminder to make sure that you have another way to contact those people that are your followers on TikTok. And the best way to do that is to run an email newsletter and collect those email addresses. So again, if you let the service control the list, you're going to lose that list. And I hope it's a good reminder, because I know there were a lot of businesses, I think like 7 million businesses, that basically their contacts in TikTok, poof, gone for 12 hours. Now, we all knew it was coming, and I'm sure some of them had done some stuff to maneuver because of that, but I hope it's a good reminder. Make sure you have another way to contact your followers. And that's another reason why you should diversify where you have your content, so that if something like that does happen, then you're not just siloed on that one platform.
I think that's a good topic for later, how to do that multi-channel social media posts. Maybe we get an expert in to talk about that as well. So since we're talking about email marketing, let's talk about like, how do we work out what's a good set of results for marketing? A 3 to 5% click-through rate?
It's funny because another thing that Mailchimp is very good at is they will give you like industry standards. And so I think for the newspaper, that like publication style business, I think the click-through rate was like 15 to 18%, which is pretty good. We're lucky where we get upwards of 30 to 40% open rate. And that's really good. Me personally, for mine, I get about 60 to 70% open rate, but my list is so small and the people on my list are my existing clients. So it doesn't surprise me that most of them open it, but every industry has different standards. You can find them online. But again, Mailchimp does a really good job of letting you know where you are with the type of business you have and what the industry standard is for that open rate. I think the more important thing, open rate, I always find amusing because our email basically opens itself. You go into the program and the email loads, it's there. And if you're going through your emails, it kind of opens on its own. I think the more important one is the click-through rate. How many people are clicking on the links that you're providing, whether that's going to your website, whether that's a downloadable, whether that's to a video, those kinds of things. To me, that is the more valuable one, and that's the one I want to see go up, because that means that people are taking, there's the thumbs up again. Gotta love these new emotion icons and stuff that come into video, and I have no idea why. I know, I was gonna say I was ignoring. I wonder if it's just the app on the computer, which we'll talk about that at some point, how amusing it is that Riverside is only Mac app and not PC app, which they really need to fix. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what those click-through rates are, and to me that's more important, because that's what I want. I want to see people take action. I want to see people actually do something with my email, not just open it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's all we were going to talk about today. Last week you had a challenge for me. What was it? Something about business goals, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you have come up with one or two business goals for this year, and how specific are they?
Well, I've got a target number I'm trying to reach for revenue for the business. And that I'm obviously not going to talk about here, but I am working on trying to integrate some students into my workflow, because there's a couple of local schools that have senior projects that they need mentors for. I've connected with my local high school as well, because they have 7 or 8 trades and they want to talk to professionals in the that are actively running their own business. So I've got at least one student this coming spring that I'm looking at mentoring a little bit. And I also am looking at integrating some of our own recommendations. I'll be signing up for LACRM, this week.
That'll be in the description or in the notes below this as well.
But my current goal is blitzing my Instagram with all of my current work, my portfolio. When people ask for my portfolio, I can now send them there. And there's a good breadth of work there, from all of my logo work to brochures and business cards and all that stuff. And I'm posting more every day. So I'm looking to blitz all that content up there so I can not obviously start talking to people more than just my immediate network.
So talk about what that post looks like. Explain to them how you're doing that post and the really cool feature that you're adding along with your work.
Oh, yes. All right. So I am using Chat GPT, which I spoke to a friend of mine who's kind of a guru in AI, and she was talking about how to create GPTs that sound like your own language, your own voice. And as you work with it more, it starts talking more like you post. So when you're working with it, you can say more casual, more humor. And what I'm actually doing is I'll create the post for Instagram in the square. I'll give a few pointers that I want to highlight within the project, and I'll tell it, give me bullets, give me hashtags, that kind of thing, and I'll upload those images to Chat with my requirements, and it spits it out, and I rewrite it a little bit just to be more truly my voice. And when I go to Instagram, I post all those images and I post the description. Now, one of the other things I'm trying to do is highlight a lot of the testimonials. So I've created testimonials that match the projects that I'm working with. And I post the project first just so that it's consistently my portfolio. And then I got a image that highlights the testimonial. And I think that's going to help Google kind of see more of what's being said about my work and just kind of elevate my own standing, I guess. And then finally, I've gone to my Google page, and I did this weekend. I looked at all of my services, and it was pretty comprehensive as a list. But when you click into those services, there's a descriptor that you can add to each one of them. So what I did was I took a screenshot of the list. I said, Chat, I need descriptions for all these things. And you know how I talk, and you know how I talk about my work. So here's the list, create descriptions for each, refer back to my Instagram for the type of language. And I added all those descriptors to Google. So I'm hoping that the performance in the next couple months starts showing me in more local posts.
That's awesome. That's not something that I've really thought about, except I think I get 2 phone calls a day at least telling me that my Google page needs to be updated. But that's a whole nother story. But that is something that I really should go in and look at. I've never really thought about that. Are you putting those testimonials in the text of your post as well?
No, Chat pulls the text from the image and reposts it into the verbiage of the descriptor, and then highlights the project with the hashtags and bullet points. So yeah, the language is in there.
Good, good. Because I was going to say that's going to be important because you want that text readable so that Google will see those testimonials. And if you're not aware of the term, but that's a great thing to social proof. And so what social proof is exactly what Carl's doing is he is posting his work so that other people can see it, but he's also using testimonials to show the people that he works with are satisfied with his work. And that's what they call social proofing. And it's highly recommended that you do that on your website as well as on social media. And that's why it's called social proof. It's a way for people to really get to know you and learn to trust you because they see that other people have been really happy with your work. So that's awesome that you're doing that. We'll put the links to our Instagrams in the show notes. It's really cool to see your grid and see all that work displayed. Really, really awesome. I know I shared this with you. I think to always keep in mind is stuff changes, and we all want to strangle Meta for this, but they changed the size of the grid. So the grid is more 3x5, not 1x1 now, or 4x5. I think it's 4x5. Might be 3. I don't know. But anyway,
I think
it's 4x5. So it's taller than it is wider. So it does mess with anything that used to be a square. Everything is still a square that you posted. It's just the way it displays it in the grid is now 4x5, which is just dumb. But anyway, just something to keep in mind and something to be aware of. But your grid looks awesome. It's neat to see all the work there really quickly and be able to see like all the different stuff that you worked on. And I think that's a great way also and we've been talking about this, and actually I have it right here. I was looking through my Every Door Direct stuff, which I do postcards for my clients, and I found one from 2016. It kind of makes you go, wow, I have been doing this for a while. So I think for you, probably going back and building these images from your work, you probably have gone back and been like, wow, like I forgot I did some of this stuff. So it's a great way to do that. Plus, it's a great portfolio, like you said. Now you can send people to that link and say, hey, check out my stuff. And it's easier to update that typically than a website. So, like, once your website is live, yeah, it'll have some portfolio pieces and stuff on there, but you're more likely to throw it up on Instagram as soon as it's done than you are to add it to your website. And I know there's ways that you could have it pulled into your website, stuff like that, which I know you're working on. But it's great to see all that work. And I know you came to me and said, man, I hope people aren't getting annoyed with how much I'm posting. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, it's awesome to see how much work you've done. I really hope people are becoming more aware of the work you've done because it's a great way to drum up business. So that's really cool
Yeah.
you're doing that. We are at a half hour, and we have one more thing that we are going to now incorporate in the show. And it's something that I wanted to do way back when we had Rookie Designer, and I just never really got it to be part of the show. So I bought these many, many, many years ago, and they're called pod decks. They're awesome. They're great for, like, this one is Would You Rather. This is an episode deck, which is basically topics. And then I have 2 interview decks. I have to show them the right way. 2 interview decks that help with interview questions. But today, we're going to work with the What the Heck deck. So, pull a card from this. The question today is, would you ever pick up a hitchhiker? So what's your answer to that one?
No, absolutely not.
I think times have changed. I think 20 years ago, yeah, maybe. Now, absolutely not. There's no way. You would have to be insane to pick up a hitchhiker.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of Large Marge. I think that's her name from the old Pee Wee movie. If I had a more of a persona like her, like
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
but no, it's you don't know people these days, and people are triggered so easily in conversation, and I just no. And I have a family to worry about, so
Yeah.
I would rather give someone money, clothing, food. I would rather give them something, even a means of transportation, than pick someone up on the road. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely not. I think you're crazy to pick somebody up, but I think you're even crazier to be a hitchhiker. Because nowadays, like, you have no idea. And like you said, people are so off the wall bonkers sometimes that I think you're absolutely insane if you try to hitchhike because you're going to disappear. I just feel like that's the main thing here is you're going to disappear. So don't do it. So I would never pick up a hitchhiker. I agree with you. I'd rather, if it was somewhere locally, I'd rather call them an Uber and pay for that than give them a ride. I'd rather provide money for a bus ticket or something like that. But yeah, it's way too dangerous today, and it's so unpredictable. I think you'd be absolutely crazy to do that. So that's the first question from our pod decks, and I will put a link to these in the chat, or in the notes. I think they're awesome. There's actually an app as well that the gentleman designed where you can buy decks that then are on your phone, and it's an even easier way of doing it. But I just love the physical decks. I've had these forever, and I'm glad I finally get to use them. And so we'll be doing those to close out every episode from now on. And again, that link will be in the show notes. And with that, we're going to close off for today. It was good talking to you, Carl, and I will see you next week.